My girlfriend said, "You were just a pastime for me." She thought I'd cry, but I had a surprise for her before I left. Before we go on, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us which city you're tuning in from. Vanessa said it like she was commenting on the weather. "You were just a pastime for me," she said, looking directly at me, without hesitation, without guilt. There was no anger in her voice, no sadness, just a calculated coldness, as if she'd rehearsed that phrase multiple times before saying it. I didn't answer immediately. I already expected it. The restaurant was full, though it didn't seem like it. The noise of conversations, cutlery, background music, everything became irrelevant at that moment. It was just her and me sitting face to face with a table between us that suddenly seemed too big. Vanessa tilted her head slightly, as if expecting a reaction. "Is that all?" she asked. "Aren't you going to say anything?" I took a sip of water before answering. I wasn't in a hurry. "If you want to leave, leave." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't look at her angrily. I just said it. That disconcerted her. I noticed it in her expression. Her eyes narrowed, just barely, as if she was trying to figure out what was happening. "Is that all you've got?" she insisted. "I thought you'd at least try to stop me." I shook my head. I wouldn't beg my own mother. There was a short silence, uncomfortable for her, not for me. Vanessa let out a small laugh, but it wasn't a genuine laugh. It was more like an automatic reaction, a way to cover something she wasn't liking. "Wow," she murmured. "So, I guess I never really mattered that much to you." I didn't answer. There was no point. She grabbed her purse with a quick movement, as if suddenly uncomfortable staying longer than necessary. "What a disappointment," she added, standing up. "I thought this would be more interesting." And without another word, she turned and walked towards the exit. She didn't look back. She didn't hesitate. She didn't stop. I remained seated there watching her walk away between the tables until she disappeared. I didn't feel anything at that moment. Not sadness, not anger, not even relief. I just confirmed something I'd already known for weeks. The waiter approached a few seconds later. "Do you want anything else?" "The check," I replied. While I waited, I looked around. Couples chatting, people laughing, someone celebrating something in the background. Everything was still the same for the rest of the world. Not for me, but not because of what she just said. That didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what came next. Because I already had a plan, and that plan hadn't started today. It had started weeks ago when everything began to change. Vanessa wasn't always like that, or at least she didn't seem to be. When we started dating, everything was pretty normal. Nothing exaggerated, nothing out of place. It was a functional relationship, 10 months in total. It wasn't short, but it wasn't enough to idealize it either. She was reserved but not distant, attentive but not excessive. She had that way about her that didn't raise suspicions easily. That's why the change was evident. It wasn't overnight, it was gradual. First, she stopped replying to messages as frequently. Then she started canceling plans with simple excuses. Then she stopped suggesting we see each other. Nothing dramatic, nothing big enough to point out immediately. But when you put small things together, they eventually form something clear. I'm not an impulsive person. I don't make scenes. I don't confront without having something concrete. So I observed for days, then weeks. Vanessa said she was busy, that she had more work, that she was going out with friends, that she needed time. It all sounded reasonable until it stopped doing so. One day, I just decided to check it. I left work early without telling her. I didn't text her. I didn't call her. I just followed what she'd told me that same morning. "I'm going to be at a coffee shop with a friend," she'd told me. It was a place I already knew. We'd been there together before. It wasn't far, so I got there quickly. I went in, looked around. She wasn't there. I thought maybe she hadn't arrived yet. I waited a few minutes. Nothing. I texted her. She didn't reply. That wasn't normal. Vanessa always had her phone on hand. I waited a little longer, calmly observing each table. She wasn't there. Then I left. I didn't intend to go home yet. There was something that didn't fit. I didn't know exactly what, but enough to keep going. And then I remembered another place, a restaurant she liked to go to. It wasn't casual. It wasn't the kind of place you go with just anyone. It was one of those places she considered special. She'd mentioned that place several times, so I went. It wasn't far. When I arrived, I didn't go in immediately. I stayed outside for a few seconds observing through the glass, and there she was, sitting at a table near the window. She wasn't alone. She was with Jonathan. I knew him, not deeply but enough. He was someone from her circle, a friend, according to her. He'd always been there in the background. I never gave him importance. Until that moment, they weren't simply conversing. The way they leaned towards each other, the closeness, the way she smiled. It wasn't a casual conversation. I didn't need to see more, but I stayed a few more seconds, enough to confirm the obvious. He took her hand. She didn't pull it away. That was all. I didn't go in. I didn't make a scene. I didn't confront them. I could have done it. I could have gone in, said something, provoked a reaction, but I didn't because at that moment I understood something. A scene wasn't going to give me anything. No real answers, no control, just a moment of emotion that later dissolves. And I didn't want that. I wanted something more, something that really mattered. So I left without them seeing me, without making a sound. And from that moment, I started to think. I didn't act immediately. I continued as if nothing had happened. I texted her as always. I replied to her messages. I accepted her excuses. We even went out a couple of times after that. She never suspected that I knew, or at least she never showed it. And that gave me time to observe, to confirm, to better understand who I was really with. But the most important thing wasn't that. The most important thing had happened a month before all this. Something that at the time I didn't fully understand, but that now made sense. The diary. Vanessa had a diary. She didn't hide it too much, but she didn't leave it in plain sight either. It was one of those objects you know exist, but that aren't part of your routine. One weekend, I stayed at her apartment. She went out to buy some things. I was alone. I wasn't looking for anything. I had no suspicions at that moment. I was just there, and then I saw it on a shelf, partially covered by other books. A hardcover notebook. Nothing special. I could have ignored it. I should have ignored it, but I didn't. I took it, opened it. At first, it seemed like what you'd expect from a diary. Simple entries, day-to-day things, normal thoughts, nothing out of place. But then it changed. The following pages weren't the same. They weren't common reflections. They were confessions, and they weren't small. They were things that didn't fit with the person I thought I knew. Vanessa didn't just write what she felt. She wrote what she did, and she did it with a level of detail that left no room for interpretation. That's when I understood that there was a part of her she never showed, a part that wasn't casual or impulsive. It was calculated. And the most disturbing thing wasn't what it said about other people. It was what it said about her own family. There was no affection, no normal conflict. There was something else, contempt. And it wasn't superficial. It was deep. She wrote about them as if they were obstacles, as if they were pieces in something she was managing. There were specific situations, concrete actions, things she'd done intentionally. They weren't mistakes. They weren't accidents. They were decisions that had directly affected people close to her. At that moment, I closed the diary, not because I didn't want to keep reading, but because I'd already seen enough to understand that this wasn't normal and that I wasn't seeing the complete person. I put it back exactly where it was. When Vanessa returned, I didn't say anything. I acted normal, as if nothing had happened, because at that moment I still didn't have all the pieces. But now everything fit. And that's why, when she said I'd only been a pastime, I wasn't surprised. What she didn't know was that I also had something to say, but not at that moment, not in that restaurant, not that way, because some things aren't said, they're shown, and I already had exactly how to do it. When I learned of her infidelity, I took photos that same day. It wasn't impulsive, it was methodical. I reopened the diary, calmly reviewed the pages I'd already read, and selected the ones that really mattered. Not all of them, only the necessary ones, the ones that left no room to justify anything. I didn't want something ambiguous. I wanted something clear, direct, irrefutable. I took several photos with my phone, making sure every word was legible. I checked for reflections, correct framing, and that no context was missing. Then I left it exactly where it was. When Vanessa returned, she never knew what I'd done. At that moment, I didn't know exactly when I'd use it, but I knew I would. After the restaurant, while waiting for the check, I thought about sending them. It was the simplest thing, a message, a quick send and done, but I didn't because I understood something important. A message can be ignored, it can be deleted, it can be rationalized, but there are things you can't avoid when they're happening in front of you. I didn't want a partial reaction. I wanted to see the full impact, so I paid. I got up, and instead of going home, I went straight to her parents' house. It wasn't the first time I'd been there. I already knew the place. I knew who lived there, what they were like, how they normally reacted. It was a quiet house, nothing flashy, a functional home. I knocked on the door. They didn't take long to open. It was her mother. "Bola," she said with a genuine smile. "What a surprise." I nodded slightly. "Good afternoon." Come in, she added. "Vanessa didn't tell us you were coming." "She doesn't know," I replied. That didn't seem to worry her. She let me in anyway. The interior was as always, tidy, clean, with that familiar atmosphere that doesn't change much over time. "Do you want something to drink?" she asked. "No, thanks." "Your father-in-law is in the living room," she added. "And your sister-in-law also came today." I nodded. Everything fit better than I expected. Then I heard footsteps. Vanessa appeared from the hallway, and as soon as she saw me, her expression changed immediately. Confusion first, then annoyance. "What are you doing here?" she asked dryly. Her mother looked at her, surprised by the tone. "Vanessa, can you leave?" she continued, ignoring her mother. "We're done, remember?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't approach. I know, that unnerved her for a second. "Then leave." I shook my head slightly. "I just came to deliver something." "I don't want anything from you." "It's not for you." There was a brief silence. Her mother intervened. "What's happening?" I looked at Vanessa for a second before replying. "I bought something a while ago for you all." I pointed slightly to her parents. I thought it was a good time to deliver it. Vanessa took a step towards me. "Don't," she said in a low but firm voice. "Don't do this." I didn't answer. Her mother, on the other hand, seemed confused but curious. "Well, if it's a gift, you can stay a moment." Vanessa shook her head, frustrated. "Mom, no, it'll only be a moment," her mother interrupted. "No problem." Her father appeared from the living room. "What's wrong?" "He came to leave us something," her mother replied. "Ah," he said. "Then come in." Vanessa's older sister was sitting on the sofa, watching everything intently, without saying anything. Perfect. Everyone was there. I didn't give a speech. I didn't give explanations. I took out my phone. "I just need a second," I said. Vanessa already knew. I saw it on her face. She didn't know exactly what, but she knew something was wrong. "What are you doing?" she asked, more tense. Now I didn't answer. I opened WhatsApp. I created a new group. I added her mother, her father, her sister, and Vanessa. The silence in the room became denser. "Why'd you make a group?" her father asked. I didn't answer. I just sent the images one after another, without comment, without context, without anything. The sound of messages being sent filled the space. Nobody spoke for a few seconds until her sister took her phone. "What's this?" She opened the first image, read, and without realizing it, did so aloud. "I'm going again." My stupid sister was crying about her depression. She paused for a second, but continued. "It's funny to see her like this. The poor thing thinks she's gone crazy and that her medications aren't working. What she doesn't know is that I changed her pills for homeopathic pills." Her voice began to crack. "Sometimes I feel bad for the poor thing, but that's what she gets for being my parents' perfect girl." Silence. Nobody moved. I plan to do more mini revenges. How about next time I put sleeping drops in her drink without her noticing? That way she'll be late for work. The sister slowly lowered her phone. Her eyes were full of tears. She looked at Vanessa. "Was that you?" Vanessa didn't answer. "That's why I felt like this," the sister continued, now crying. "I felt like a zombie." Her voice broke. "Are you sick?" Vanessa opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The father took his phone, opened another image, read in silence at first, but then spoke. "I'm going." My father again, with his stories from his youth. His tone changed. "Nobody cares. I wish my mother had stayed with her ex-boyfriend." He slowly looked up. "My father's just a simple nurse, not even a mediocre doctor." The silence became heavy. "Wow, Dad, what an impressive story where you saved a child's life." He clenched his jaw. "Sometimes I wish he'd crash that old car he has. At least that way I'd get some inheritance." He put down the phone, didn't scream, didn't make any exaggerated gestures, just looked at Vanessa. And that was worse. The mother, with trembling hands, opened another image. "It can't be," she murmured. She read, "I'm going." My mother looked fatter than usual. She put a hand to her mouth. "That's what she gets for telling me that dress didn't look good on me." Her eyes began to fill with tears. "The altered milk is working. Poor thing. She exercises and keeps gaining weight on the scale." Her voice cracked. "At this rate, she'll have a heart attack." "Ha!" The phone almost fell from her hands. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy, dense, suffocating. Vanessa finally spoke. "It's not what it looks like." Nobody replied. "You don't understand," she added faster now. "That's just writing things. It doesn't mean that." "Shut up," her sister said with a broken voice. Vanessa looked at her. "You don't know what you're saying." "Shut up," she repeated louder. "You poisoned me." The father took a step forward. "Is it true?" Vanessa hesitated. "Just a second." But it was enough. Is it true?" he repeated more firmly. "It wasn't like that. You changed your medications." Vanessa didn't answer. The mother started to cry. "The milk." Vanessa shook her head. "It wasn't that serious." The father slammed his hand on the table. "It wasn't that serious?" The sound echoed throughout the room. Vanessa backed away slightly. "You're talking about hurting your own family. It wasn't real harm. You tampered with your sister's medication. Nothing was going to happen to her." And yes. Silence. Vanessa had no answer. Her sister didn't stop crying. "No wonder," she said through tears. "No wonder I felt like this." Her mother sat down, unable to support herself. "Why?" she murmured. "Why would you do something like that?" Vanessa was breathing fast. Now she no longer had control of the situation. "It was always like this," she said suddenly. "Always." Everyone looked at her. "She was always the favorite," she continued, pointing at her sister. "Always the perfect one. I was just balancing things out." "Balancing?" her father repeated incredulously. "Yes," she said, now more firmly. "Nobody saw how unfair everything was. That doesn't justify it." "I never said it was fair," she interrupted. "I just said I did it." The silence returned, but it wasn't the same. Now there was something else. Real, irreversible rupture. "I didn't say anything all that time. It wasn't necessary. I just watched because this was what I wanted to see. Not impulsive revenge, not meaningless shouting, but real, direct, unfiltered consequences." After that point, it was no longer an exchange of words. It was a complete breakup. Vanessa started talking faster, as if trying to regain the control she'd already lost. "It's not what you think," she said with a trembling voice. "Everything's taken out of context. I just wrote things when I was angry." Nobody replied to her. "Please," she insisted. "You can't take that as if it were literal." "Literal," her sister repeated, still with tears in her eyes. "Changing my medications isn't literal." Vanessa looked at her desperately. "Nothing was going to happen to you. You can't decide that for me." The father intervened, this time without raising his voice, but with a different firmness. "Enough." The silence returned. But now it was definitive. "We've heard enough." Vanessa swallowed hard. "Dad, He interrupted her. "I don't want to hear any more explanations." She took a step towards him. "Really, I'm sorry. I was wrong. But we can fix it." "No," he repeated. "This can't be fixed." Vanessa started crying openly. "Please, don't kick me out. I have nowhere to go." That slightly changed her mother's expression, who looked at her with doubt. "What do you mean you have nowhere to go?" Vanessa hesitated, but she didn't have many options left. "I haven't paid the rent," she admitted. "They're going to kick me out of the apartment." Her father frowned. "Since when?" "Weeks ago. And that's why you came back here?" Vanessa nodded without looking up. "I thought I could stay a few days." Her father slowly shook his head. "No." Vanessa looked up, surprised. "What? You're not staying here, Dad? Please." "No," he repeated, now more firmly. "No. After this, I'm your daughter, and they're your family," he said, pointing to the mother and sister whom she decided to harm. Vanessa was speechless. Her mother, who'd been silent, slowly stood up. Her eyes were red, but no longer just from sadness. There was something else. "The milk," she said suddenly. Vanessa looked at her. "What?" "The milk you mentioned." The atmosphere tensed again. "What did you do to it?" Vanessa shook her head quickly. "Nothing serious." Seriously, tell me the truth. Vanessa hesitated. It wasn't dangerous. Tell me. The silence stretched for a few seconds. Then, finally, Vanessa spoke. Weight gain. Her mother blinked, confused. What? A supplement to gain weight, she explained in a low voice. I mixed it with the milk. Her mother remained motionless. What? Vanessa started crying harder. I was angry. Just that. Sorry. Nothing's going to happen to you, really. Her mother took a step back, as if she no longer recognized the person in front of her. I can't believe it. Her sister didn't react the same way. She didn't speak. She didn't hesitate. She simply advanced and hit her. The first blow was dry, direct. Vanessa didn't expect it and stumbled backward, losing her balance. But her sister didn't stop. She hit again and again. You're sick, she screamed between blows. Are you sick? Vanessa tried to cover herself, crying, unable to defend herself. Stop, her father shouted, intervening immediately. He grabbed her by the arms and pulled her away forcefully. Enough. Her sister kept crying, trembling with rage. You ruined me. Vanessa was on the floor, disheveled, crying uncontrollably. Nobody approached to help her. Nobody comforted her. She got up as best she could, staggering. She looked at everyone, her mother, her father, her sister, and finally at me. Her expression changed. It was no longer desperation. It was hatred. This is your fault, she said, pointing at me. I didn't answer. You ruined everything. There was no point in answering. I hate you, she added with a broken voice. I wish I'd never met you. She picked up her purse from the floor. Nobody stopped her. Nobody said anything to her. She walked towards the door, opened it, and left crying without looking back. The silence that remained was different. It wasn't tension, it was emptiness. Her father took a deep breath, as if the weight of everything that had happened fell all at once. Then he looked at me. Thanks. I didn't say anything. You opened our eyes, he added. But you should go now. I nodded. It was fair. I had nothing else to do there. I left the house without saying another word. That was the last time I saw Vanessa in person. I didn't try to find her. She didn't text me, and I wasn't interested in doing so either, but I didn't end there, because there was something else, something simple, direct. I took the remaining photos from the diary, the ones that had nothing to do with her family, but with her friends, opinions, criticisms, mockery, everything she said about them when they weren't around, and I sent them. Without explanation, without context, just the images. It wasn't hard to imagine the result. Vanessa not only lost her family that day, she also lost the little she had left outside. Homeless, friendless, alone. I didn't feel satisfaction, but I didn't feel guilt either. I just closed the chapter and moved on.